Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Batman. And you might be wondering, that doesn't look like Batman, why does it say Batman? Well, it's because it's Batman, but from Dark Knights of Steel. Why don't they just put that on the front? For people who collect in box, you don't need every box to just say the base name. I'm guessing. If you collect in box, let me know what you think about that. To me, it's weird that it's on the sides only. Okay, anyway, this figure is a really good example of something that McFarlane does really well, and a really good example of something McFarlane does really poorly, and then the rest is somewhere in the middle. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Alright, before we get into the review, let's take a look at the package. It is your standard DC fare from McFarlane, just black and white packaging, nice big window. I think it's a good looking package, honestly. It's not the most elaborate, but it looks pretty good. I think if they went with the chrome that they do on their special edition figures that aren't really special, that would be nice. But still, the black and white and blue is good. So, very basic. Then you get some artwork there that where it shows the character design being way cooler than the figure actually looks. But it's mostly just the background stuff that you get to see, but still some nice artwork, so there you go. The figure stands, he seems short, let's see if he is. Nope, he's not. About 7 3/8, and that's gonna make him pretty close to, let's call it 18.75 centimeters. I'm averaging the height of the ears down, or I'm averaging it to the middle of the ears, because they shouldn't count for scaling purposes. And there he is up against Darwin, so clearly a different scale, even though Marvel Legends are creeping. Okay, time for the question of the day. This figure is a really good example of a figure that has a wonderful sculpt, for the price point especially, but virtually no paint. Would you rather have a figure like this, where you can add some paint and touch it up, or would you rather have a figure that has a lot of reused parts, but maybe a little bit more paint? Not that we're getting that from a lot of companies, but still, what do you think? To me, this figure, it has enough variation that it doesn't look terrible in molded plastic, but the sculpt is still really nice, so I definitely like that. And if I want to, I can throw a little bit of paint on there, or if nothing else, just a wash and bring it to life. So I do like the fact that it has a new sculpt, and a very nice one at that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the aesthetic. One of the things that McFarlane does really well is new sculpts. They have a lot of new sculpts. I'm not saying all of those are good sculpts, but they do have a lot of new sculpts, and that is a good thing generally speaking. This one happens to be a good one. Proportions wise, it's much better than almost every figure that they release. It's very much better proportioned all the way around. It looks pretty darn good in that sense. The only thing this figure is lacking aesthetically is paint. There's sculpted texture almost everywhere. Let's look at his helmet. Lots of detail there. I do like that they did the face. The lips are definitely too heavy, for sure. But it's kind of a subdued color, so I don't mind it as much. It's not very vibrant. It's relatively dull, so I'll take it. It's not saturated. The eyes are pretty well done in there. Sculpt is nice all the way around. The armor has all kinds of nicks and scratches and things. You could easily bring this to life with a little bit of dry brushing or a little bit of wash. There's texture going on in the clothing underneath. Again, more texture in the armor. Even the hands have texturing. There's texture everywhere, so I like that they do that. It's not like Hasbro, where all of the comic figures are just completely smooth, bare bones plastic figures, or they look like plastic rather than sculpted cloth. Like, look at that. We don't get that often from Hasbro, especially Hasbro, but a lot of companies that are making comic figures. So I like that McFarlane's trying to bring these guys to life. It really just needs a lot of paint, and I'm saying that as a good thing and a bad thing, because what's here is awesome, and if they were to paint it the way I want them to, it would cost $45. So at the price point, I think is this guy 20, have they jumped to 25 yet? I don't remember, but either way, you're getting a lot of sculpt here for your money, and it's not a terrible looking figure. If you stick that on the shelf next to a Hasbro figure, the only reason it looks like it has less paint is because it has more sculpt. So I think that's perfectly reasonable. But obviously it needs more paint. Maybe they should do a wash and just eat that cost. I think maybe that would bring it to life enough. But let me know what you guys think about the whole situation. But I'm very pleased with the way this looks, other than the lack of paint. So it's a weird kind of dichotomy of, do we want paint or do we not want paint? And do we need it at the price? It's a weird combo with something that looks this good if it had the paint. Alright, I'll stop trying to explain what I'm saying, because I don't know if I'm doing any good at all. I'm going to give this guy a rating of 8 out of 10 for the aesthetic for McFarlane Toys. It sorely needs the paint, but at this price point, I don't know that that's a fair criticism. Okay? Alright. As far as accessories go, you just get the 2 trigger finger hands on him in the package. Those aren't accessories, and there are no replacement hands. So that's not good. You do get his long sword, which isn't a floppy mess, but it's softer than it could be, but it looks, or a great sword, I guess you would call this. But it looks pretty darn good. The gold is nice, the silver is a little bit blue, but still looks cool. I'll take it. That's it for all the accessories, real accessories. We do get the DC display stand, which is a waste of time, and the trading collector's garbage card, which just looks better than the figure, and I don't get why they do it. So accessory-wise, 1 out of 10, we get the sword, and he can hold it, but otherwise he has trigger finger hands, so that's really, really lame. Okay, as far as articulation goes, the head is articulated on the top of the neck. It's probably a double ball peg. I can't say for sure, because it doesn't move that much. It feels like a double, but up and down isn't great. Leaning side to side is decent, and then rotation is okay. The collar is soft, so that is helpful, but he's still going to get very limited range. That's mostly due to the character design. It looks nice enough doing it, but it's still not great. Look at that though. The neck goes all the way up to the head rather than having a big gap, so I like that. That's cool. Shoulders are still connected, as McFarlane always does, almost always anyway. Ball peg into the torso with a floaty cap. It gives you decent range. Normally we don't get that much, so that's alright. These guys are connected down here so that you can raise the arm up and they will flex, so that works pretty nicely. I'll take it. Full rotation, no issue there. Bicep swivel is hidden in a weird sculpting decision, but it's not super noticeable. That strap that is supposed to be holding on the armor is just very, very circular, and you get your rotation out of that. So it's a little bit of a weird sculpting choice, but it hides the joint well enough, so I'll take that. The fact that the rotation happens a little bit lower will help to bring his arms across the chest. We'll see if I can get him to double hand the sword. I'm guessing not, but maybe. Maybe. I don't like the way the arm is cut out here. You're not going to notice that in a lot of poses, and it does allow the arm to come down, but it is not a good looking thing if you want to bring the arm out. Alright, double jointed elbow. What kind of range do we have on that? Good range. No issue there. Is it the... Well, it's not. They're doing better. It's not the ugliest thing we've ever seen. A lot of their elbows are. Pretty bad. Alright, wrists are on ball hinges. That'll be okay. They seem to work pretty well. The gauntlet is a soft material. A lot of soft material on this guy. Softer and thinner than usual. That's what she said. The cape works nicely. This cloak down here, it's nice and flexible. Even the gauntlets, very soft. You can't tell that it's soft from me doing that. They're very soft, so that's good. Alright, for the torso, let's see what we have here. I haven't tried this yet. Leans back a little bit, not a ton. It leans forward about the same. He's got a lot going on, so I'm gonna say this one gets a little bit of a pass in that department. It works pretty well, considering most of them don't work at all. Side to side is nice. Rotation is there. I'll take it. As far as more rotation at the waist, it appears to be in there underneath this piece, but you're not gonna get a whole lot out of it, so don't worry about that. For the hips, standard McFarlane hips, they needed this to be a separate piece right here. They needed that to be a cut, which you could do on your own easily. But if they were doing it properly, this would be an overlap. So that if you wouldn't just cut this and have this not continue. I would do that anyway if I was you personally, but that's up to you. Just cut this, you'll get better range. But it should be an overlap. That's annoying. It does hinder the legs. And back here it goes pretty far up. It is thin enough that it's tearing because they didn't overlap or cut it enough. So it's tearing at the top here, and it will tear here pretty easily. So be careful with that, bringing the legs out to the side or even forward. So let's see, going forward. It's not bad, but it's not great. Definitely could be better going back. It actually works better going back, so that's pretty good. I'll take that. Thigh swivel is in there just a little bit. I really like the texture on the pants. It looks nice. See, oftentimes if you have enough texture, you don't need the paint because the light is going to do the work for you, shadows and whatnot. But at this scale, the paint does accentuate that because the light doesn't cast as much of a shadow at this size, believe it or not. So that's a thing. Double jointed knees work pretty well. Not the best thing ever. Proportioning is still really wonky. The lower legs are always too long on DC and Marvel figures at this point. Don't know why. Ankles work really well going forward and really well going back. You get a decent ankle rocker out of that, no problem there, other than the heavy ratchets are still really heavy and annoying to use. Toe hinge is well placed, well enough sculpted, and it's not soft, so that'll work. I mean, as far as toe hinges go, that one's okay. So articulation on this guy, not bad at all. Could be a lot better in a few places, but it's perfectly acceptable. So I'll give his articulation a 7. You will be able to pose it. The sword, by the way, does go in the scabbard. There's a whole lot of the sword showing, but it does go in there. So if you wanted to do that, you could. I don't know why. I mean, I guess that hair mark is just oddly rectangular. Weird look, but whatever. It works nicely enough. So, okay. All right, time for the final verdict on this guy after we do a cake rating, which is going to be hard to do, but we're going to try. He does have the skirt over the baggy pants. You can see a little bit of cheek on there, so I'm going to say he's got something going on, but not much, and it's not easy enough to see. So I'm only going to give him a 5 out of 10 as kind of like a mercy rating because I can't quite tell what's going on there. I also wanted to mention the cape. It's not symmetrical at all. It's very windswept, which is the only thing that's windswept, so it's not the best thing in the world because it'd be nice if everything had at least a little bit of motion to it if you're going to have this, but at least it's a relatively small cape and it doesn't go crazy out to the side or wrap around or anything like that, so I don't mind it really. It's not bothering me, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that, but I think it looks okay. Okay, so now it's time for the final verdict. I think it's a solid release. The good proportioning helps. The really nice sculpted detail helps, but definitely it is held back by the lack of paint. I'm still going to give it a 9. For McFarlane Toys, this is one of the better ones that they've released, at least in a long time. And I would say it goes up there with like Speeding Bullets or Asbat. It sorely needs paint, don't get me wrong, but it poses well enough. It's sculpted incredibly well. The head looks good enough. Like, I'm happy enough with it. Let me know how you guys feel. I don't know. It's hard for me to judge something like this because it's halfway awesome and then they just didn't finish it. But at this price point, I don't think they could. Strange thing. Let me know. Alright guys, there it is. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you probably should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.